South Korea's top two chip makers, Samsung Electronics and SK hynix, posted record sales for 2025 on the back of solid sales of premium semiconductors amid growing demand from AI industries. Industry Minister Kim Jong-un has arrived in the U.S. to hold talks with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick over U.S. President Donald Trump's recent warning that he will reimpose 25% tariffs on South Korean goods. The National Assembly passed a special bill aimed at expanding support for the chip industry, in line with the government's efforts to speed up the global competitiveness of one of its key export sectors. Last year, the nation's leading chip makers, Samsung Electronics and SK hynix, delivered record-breaking results fueled by the AI boom. Expectations are high that 2026 will bring another AI-driven supercycle for both companies. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon starts us off.
The AI boom delivered a historic year for Korean chip makers, setting the stage for an even brighter 2026. SK hynix on Thursday, the current leader in the premium AI memory market, confirmed that its high bandwidth memory revenue more than doubled last year. Moving forward, the company is laser-focused on maintaining its dominance, announcing that it is already moving ahead with the next generation of chips. On top of this, the company's supply will continue to be lean, keeping the company in a good position to boost profitability.
We expect low inventory levels to persist throughout the year. With chips selling as soon as they're produced, levels will likely fall further in the second half.
Samsung Electronics also had a massive year, posting its highest ever consolidated revenue in 2025. While its chip division currently trails SK hynix in profitability, Samsung is aggressively pivoting to close the gap. The tech giant declared 2026 as the year to recapture the top spot, confirming plans to start delivering its mass-produced HBM4 chips in the first quarter as early as next month. Samsung, during its earnings conference call on Thursday, said, "We aim to lead the AI era with our product competitiveness in 2026. We will proactively address customer demand by expanding the supply of our HBM4 chips with competitive performance in a timely manner." Analysts say the optimism is well supported and this year may only get better.
The two companies have 70% of the DRAM market and 50% of NAND, so 2026 will almost certainly be the biggest year since their founding.
This comes as both companies posted record sales for 2025. SK hynix posted fourth quarter sales of 32.83 trillion won, or around $23.0 billion, a 66% jump on year. Operating profit surged to a record 19.17 trillion won. For the full year, revenue hit 97.1 trillion won with an operating profit of 47.2 trillion won. Samsung Electronics reported quarterly sales of 93.84 trillion won, up nearly 24% on year. Operating profit spiked over 200% to 20.07 trillion won. Annual revenue reached a record 333.61 trillion won with a total operating profit of 43.60 trillion won. However, Samsung did also note that its finished product sales could face hurdles with the rise in prices following the chip price surge. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
The National Assembly convened a plenary session today to pass around 90 non-contentious bills related to livelihoods. After all was said and done, a total of 91 were passed. Our correspondent An Sung-jun reports.
The National Assembly passed 91 non-contentious bills on Thursday at its plenary session. Of the 175 bills on the agenda, the ruling and main opposition parties had agreed to prioritize around 90 non-contentious ones that are related to livelihoods and economic issues. As the main opposition People Power Party decided not to stage a filibuster during the session, the legislative process moved forward swiftly. One of the main items that was passed was a special act on strengthening and supporting the competitiveness of the semiconductor industry. The bill outlines concrete support measures for the chip sector, including the creation of semiconductor industry clusters and the development of key infrastructures such as power grids, water supply systems, and road networks. Other bills related to livelihoods include legislation to promote agriculture as a national strategic industry by stabilizing agricultural and fisheries product prices, an act to protect small and medium-sized enterprises' technologies, and a special law expanding eligibility for interest exemptions under the income contingent student loan repayment system. Both parties also agreed to restore Constitution Day, July 17th, as an official public holiday. In addition to the non-contentious bills, the parties also passed a revision to the National Assembly Act. This amendment would allow the chairing authority of a plenary session to be transferred from the Speaker to the standing committee chairs in the event of a filibuster. The amendment is to address procedural challenges and physical exhaustion that have arisen during past filibusters, where the Speaker or Vice Chairman of the National Assembly had to preside over filibusters due to extended sessions. With the amendment's passage, standing committee chairs will be able to preside over plenary sessions during filibusters, easing the burden on the Assembly's leadership. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung has urged for the establishment of plans to prepare for the AI era. Presiding over a meeting with his aides on Thursday, he called for the advent of AI unavoidable and very crucial, adding that it could entirely change the lives of people in Korea and beyond. He spoke of the need to brace for the new era, taking into account the benefits as well as concerns, such as polarization or AI replacing human labor. South Korea enacted the AI Basic Act last week to ensure the safe use and development of AI, becoming the first country to do so. South Korea's industry minister arrived in the U.S. to hold talks with his U.S. counterpart. His sudden visit to Washington comes after President Donald Trump made a tariff hike threat, which Seoul's top diplomat said was not a breakdown of the trade deal itself. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Industry Minister Kim Jong-un arrived in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday night to meet with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick for discussions on Trump's tariff hike threat. His visit comes after the U.S. president announced earlier this week that he would raise reciprocal tariffs and auto duties on Korea back to 25% from 15%. Upon his arrival at Dulles International Airport, he told reporters that he will meet Lutnick on Thursday local time. Trump appears to be dissatisfied with how the domestic legislative process has been progressing and made remarks to that effect, he added. Kim said he will clearly explain the domestic legislative situation to avoid any misunderstandings and that there has been no change in South Korea's position in terms of cooperation with an investment in the U.S. Meanwhile, Seoul's top diplomat underlined that U.S. President Trump's warning of a tariff hike on South Korean exports does not mean a breakdown of the trade deal reached between the two allies. The remarks were from a panel discussion with the local press on Thursday.
It would be hard to view this as a breach of the agreement, and we believe we can adequately explain it to the U.S. side as we proceed.
He added that such a process is not a renegotiation, but rather consultations to faithfully implement the existing fact sheet details. South Korea's moves follow U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent making it clear that there will be no trade deal with South Korea until the National Assembly formally ratifies the pending special law on U.S.-bound investment. In an interview with CNBC on Wednesday, Bessent said that South Korean parliament has not passed a trade deal, so there is no trade deal until they ratify it, adding that it would be helpful if things moved along. The U.S. trade representative has also talked about how Seoul had not executed commitments under last year's trade framework while speaking in an interview on Tuesday.
We moved down to 15% for Korea as a show of good faith. They haven't been able to get a bill through to do the investment. They've introduced new laws on digital services.
He had added that it would be hard for Washington to hold up the bargain if Seoul does not swiftly move forward. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
As the U.S. Federal Reserve decided to keep its interest rates unchanged, global uncertainties continue to shake the financial market. The domestic financial market has been slowly stabilizing here in South Korea, prompting the government to continue its close watch. Eun-jin reports.
South Korea's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Finance Koo Yoon-chol says that given current global uncertainties, the government and relevant agencies plan to continue the operation of a 24-hour monitoring system of the financial market. The statement was made during a meeting of finance-related officials on Thursday, following the U.S. Federal Reserve's decision to freeze its benchmark interest rate at the current 3.50 to 3.75% range.
Given global uncertainties, such as concerns over a potential U.S. federal government shutdown, the unpredictability of tariff policies, and geopolitical factors, the government will keep a close watch on external conditions and maintain a 24-hour monitoring system while closely coordinating with relevant institutions, including the Bank of Korea and the Financial Supervisory Service.
However, Minister Koo highlighted that the domestic financial market is generally showing a stable outlook, with the stock markets, supported by foreign investor net purchases, continuing to record their highest stock index gains compared to major countries. Adding that government bond yields, which had risen due to factors such as the sharp increase in Japanese interest rates, are also gradually stabilizing. The government plans to push for fundamental improvements in industrial competitiveness and will continue to strengthen the structure of the capital market, which includes the launch of a 30 trillion won National Growth Fund this year. Aiming to usher in an era of premium Korea, the government will boldly support national strategic industry development and the transformations of the artificial intelligence and green transition paradigm. These efforts will be backed with regulatory improvements as the government moves to actively push for tax law revisions in the February National Assembly session. 이은진, 아리랑 뉴스.
South Korea's annual patent applications have surpassed 260,000 for the first time in 2025, driven by strong growth in advanced technologies such as AI and quantum computing. According to the Ministry of Intellectual Property, domestic patent applications rose 21.1% year-on-year, despite the recent economic slowdown. South Korea became the world's fourth nation to record more than 260,000 patent applications, following Japan, the U.S., and China. International patent applications by South Korean companies also surged 17.6% from 2024, reflecting the country's growing technological competitiveness in global markets. As part of our special coverage on how Korea-France relations have evolved over the past 140 years, we explore how Korean food has not only made waves, but is also changing the fine dining scenery throughout one top chef. Our Oh Soo-young tells us more.
This gourmet bibimbap, topped with Bordeaux caviar and fresh tuna, gives a taste of how Korean food in France has entered the structures of fine dining in the gastronomic capital. It's a creation by Korean-born French chef Pierre Sang-Boyer, who rose to fame on TV show Top Chef 15 years ago.
My first challenge is to be a chef in a capital of gastronomy, Right. It was not easy, because I think the taste of French people are quite different, but they're sharing the same value than Korea. Value to be together. Value about supplier, value about diversity.
Adopted in France at the age of 7, Boyer later trained in classical French gastronomy. He worked in prestigious kitchens in Seoul, London and New York before establishing his own series of fine dining restaurants in Paris. One much-loved menu item is bibimbap, inspired by his Korean wife and their children's love for this iconic dish.
And how many bibimbaps are you selling per day?
And I have the chance to have 6 restaurants in Paris, and we're selling more than 4,000 bibimbap a day.
But this is no ordinary bibimbap.
So we decided to do like a bibimbap with the rice of Korea. We had some green lentils, some product from my place in Auvergne, and we had some eggs and some French twist. I mean, like lentils, we mix with some kimchi and use some raw ingredients and some seasonal product.
His classically French emphasis on ingredients and origin mirrors the chef's own life trajectory. His adoption in France and his community, and his evolving bond with Korean culture, now through his family, inspires his food. His personal touch made Korean flavors approachable to French diners at a time when Korean cuisine had little presence, according to acclaimed food and travel writer Catherine Down.
Pierre Boyer, who was a finalist in Top Chef in 2011, came up in a very classic French cadre, and then really sort of brought, I would say, some Korean flavors and techniques to the mainstream through being a finalist on Top Chef and then opening his own restaurant, which has really blended sort of classic French techniques, but with some of those Korean flavors that at the time were really new for the French palate and felt very exciting and innovative.
Korean cooking is now being absorbed into the logic of French gastronomy.
France loves hierarchy within a meal, so you have entrée, plat, cheese, dessert. There's sort of a rigid structure, but I think with a younger French customer who has traveled a little bit more, who's a little bit more open, we've seen more openness to different culinary techniques, more sort of sharing of food, more street food, openness to bolder flavors that are less traditionally French.
Methods like fermentation have gained particular traction, from sauces called chang and kimchi to makgeolli rice wine.
So we have a long-standing tradition of fermentation around charcuterie and cheese and wine, and so I think bringing in Korean fermentation techniques, there's a real respect there in terms of how you celebrate a product and sort of capture it through fermentation, how you represent a certain moment in time and layer some of those flavors.
As Seoul and Paris mark their 140th anniversary of bilateral relations, there's a growing appetite to explore more flavors combining the best of both countries. World Tour Arirang News, Paris.
Now, in a world of fast and modernized food, Korean temple cuisine takes a slower path. And Buddhist monk Venerable Sunjae of Netflix's Culinary Class Wars shares a philosophy where food becomes medicine. Our culture correspondent Park Bonu met her to learn more.
Venerable Sunjae, a Buddhist monk and contestant on the global Netflix hit Culinary Class Wars, says temple food healed the liver disease that had pushed her to the brink of death.
Temple food traditionally excludes ingredients like garlic and focuses on balance to promote long and healthy lives. This wisdom resonates with people overseas, making it appealing to global tastes.
When preparing side dishes, homegrown ingredients that have endured harsh weather and intentionally limited watering are chosen, believing they hold richer nutrients. From fresh fruit to Napa cabbage, zucchini and winter spinach, every ingredient is treated with gratitude and nothing is wasted.
You shouldn't throw away even a single leaf. Someone who doesn't understand the value of agriculture cannot truly be a practitioner.
As much as possible is kept, and even the water to blanch vegetables is reused, believing every part carries life.
People who cook are doctors, and that's why cooking is difficult. They must save not only the human body, but the life of nature as well, because we live only when nature lives.
Scooping out zucchinis with a spoon, a method she says helps braise them more evenly, was another small but meaningful lesson. What's served up are stir-fried walnuts glazed with traditional Korean syrup, tofu braised in soy sauce aged for over 6 decades, white kimchi made from homegrown cabbage, and many more. Now it's time to eat, but with rituals. Beginning with the sound of Sunjae's traditional Korean Buddhist wooden clapper, bowls are cleansed with water, and only as much food as can be eaten should be taken, as leaving leftovers is strictly avoided. The meal can take over an hour as you keep praying to appreciate the food served on the table.
I offer a prayer of gratitude to my ancestors, to everyone whose efforts brought this food to me, and to the lives of nature. A cabbage does not grow on its own. It holds the soil, water, wind, and sunlight within it. Through that gratitude, I reflect inward on all the connections that made my life possible.
말씀하신 것처럼 여러 가지 한식의 어떤 지혜 같은 게 많이 담겨져 있고 그 세계로 뻗어나가는 데 있어서 그럼 스님의 역할은 앞으로 어떤 게 있다고 보시나요?
Though our ancestors didn't use scientific or medical terms and spoke in symbolic ways, that doesn't mean their wisdom should be ignored. Korean food has long been made with the mindset of medicine. I hope this wisdom is preserved, understood, and shared without losing its roots.
And through food, a universal language, Venerable Sunjae emphasizes the importance of living in peace, not only with one another, but with all forms of life, including the earth, water, wind, and sunlight. Park Gonu, Arirang News.
As BTS prepares to make its comeback in March with the album Arirang, following a three-year and 9-month break, the group is already posting strong signs of popularity with massive sales of albums, merchandise, and concerts. For more, our business correspondent Park Junan is in the studio to walk us through the economic impact that the upcoming BTS World Tour is expected to have, not only here in South Korea, but globally. Welcome back, Junan.
It's good to see you again, Dami.
So, Junan, many armies, including myself, are waiting for their return. Now, explain to us the economic impact of their return in terms of numbers-wise.
Well, first of all, I'm very excited to introduce the BTS members' tour schedules, and also as an army, I'm so excited. Well, I'm pretty sure many of our viewers have somewhat heard about Swiftnomics or Taylornomics. The term was coined in reference to American solo artist Taylor Swift, whose tours have boosted local economies through sharp increases in tourism, hospitality, and consumer spending. So, borrowing the term from Swiftnomics, the global economy is now bracing for BTSnomics. As the K-pop icons officialize their return this March, experts project a staggering revenue of over $1 billion for the company and a multi-billion-dollar economic impact expected throughout a year-long comeback stages. The BTS World Tour Arirang is already breaking records with massive sales and arenas selling out. As of now, BTS will perform a total of 82 shows across 34 cities worldwide, spanning North America, Europe, South America, Asia, and more, making the largest single tour by any K-pop act. The agents reported that all tickets on sale sold out completely, with major global stadiums selling out within minutes or hours. In Mexico City alone, the 3 scheduled shows at GNP Seguros sold 150,000 tickets in just 37 minutes, drawing over 1 million fans trying to get in from Mexico and neighboring countries like Peru, Colombia, and Chile. Demand was so intense that Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum even sent a rare diplomatic letter to Korea's President Lee Jae-myung requesting additional tour schedules. Even before its official release on March 20, BTS' upcoming full-length album Arirang's pre-orders have surpassed 4.06 million copies in just the first week, topping their own previous record. This guarantees massive sales and solidifies the album's role in driving overall revenue for the group and the industry. And of course, the real thrill of concert is seeing fans waving their light sticks together in stadiums, and it translates directly into huge merchandise sales. Official light sticks, apparel, photo cards, and other merchandise are flying off shelves, with pop-up stores and venue merch booths generating massive revenue on site.
Okay, Junan, then I do have to ask, what kind of impact does the BTS World Tour have on local economies beyond the music industry?
Right, so I would like to give an example of the South Korea's second biggest city, Busan. So another example, BTS is scheduled to perform there in June, and the announcement alone caused hotel and travel searches to explode. According to Hotels.com, overseas travel searches for Busan surged by a massive 2,375% in just 48 hours, while domestic searches jumped an astonishing 3,855%. Fans from Japan, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and beyond are expected to flood into Korea, making it very hard to find rooms, much like past tours, where accommodations sold out quickly and prices skyrocketed. The overflowing travel demand isn't limited to Korea alone. Even in Paris, France, local report indicates a 590% increase in travel demand, cited by Hotels.com data. A professor of hotel and convention management said that the BTS comeback will have a strong ripple effect on local economies as it attracts a global fan base. Let's take a listen.
When an international event is held in a specific city or region, it naturally draws more people who are interested, and they tend to stay longer. As a result, the ripple effects across the local economy, including tourism, dining, shopping, and accommodation, become quite significant.
In Busan, the authorities held an interagency meeting last week to prevent unfair practices in accommodation and are in the process of requesting hotels and motels to participate in good prices in their accommodation listings.
So exciting. We're just 2 months away from seeing them in one piece again. Chunan, thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you so much, Tami.
Even during the daytime, the cold is still biting hard, especially in the center parts of the country. Tomorrow morning, this cold wave will get even more fierce than today, marking the peak of this cold snap. However, the freezing weather should finally start easing off from Saturday afternoon. Since there is no significant rain or snow in the forecast, the air continues to be dry, raising the risk of wildfires. Please be extra careful with anything that could start a fire. Seoul will start off at minus 12 degrees Celsius tomorrow morning, with Chuncheon at minus 15 degrees. Daily highs will rise to minus 2 degrees in Seoul, 3 degrees in Daegu. Looking ahead, snow is expected in the northern parts of Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do provinces on Sunday, followed by snow in the central western regions next Monday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.